I live a quarter mile away from two grocery stores, Star Market and Whole Foods. When I get to them, I'm constantly thinking, should I buy the name brand or the Kraft mac and cheese? When I'm on YouTube, should I watch your content, Matt, or another content creators? When I'm buying shoes, should I buy the Nike or the Adidas ones? When I'm picking a college to go to, both equal NIL monies. Which one do I choose? We're constantly given in life decisions of pretty much two equals. And the reason we end up choosing that college to go to, even though the money is the same at both, or the reason we choose the name brand over the generic one, is because of emotion. We choose it because we have a connection with that. We have a connection with the head coach. I have a connection with your content on YouTube, Matt. And what we're going to talk about today is how this is used in business, most often in the form of client dinners. If you're an investment bank, your whole business relies on getting CFOs and other decision makers at companies to choose you to do their deal. So, investment bankers will often take these CFOs and important clients out to dinner in hopes that one of them will return the favor one day by giving them their business. In our argument that we're going to lay out for you today is that content is the ultimate client dinner. Matt, do you want to kick us off and say why?
Investment banks and pretty much anyone running a business where you're trying to get new customers, new clients, what have you, whether it's a service business or even a product business, it's critically important to build deep trust and relationships with potential clients or potential customers. Now, in the example of an investment bank, Daniel, which I'll use because I think it's one that a lot of people can understand, the difference between securing a multi-million dollar M&A fee can sometimes come down to just did you take the client out to a Michelin star restaurant and have a really great conversation with them that night. So, the consequences of not doing something like that client dinner, you can imagine, can be massive for an investment bank. Goldman Sachs wants to be the lead frontrunner on the SpaceX IPO. That's probably going to happen this year. So, what are they going to do? They're probably going to try to take Elon or the CFO of SpaceX out to dinner. You bet they're going to drop like 10 grand on that experience. Maybe they're going to do something after as well. So there's a lot of money and attention by senior bankers being dropped on almost like courting potential clients because they know the 10 grand dinner, like that's a drop in the bucket compared to the $100 million success fee that they're going to get when the IPO goes live. Now, taking a step back though, now that we understand why it's important to do things like client dinners and why it's a tale as old as time, right? Like even if you look back to 100 years ago, investment bankers were probably also taking potential clients out to dinner. In that same way though, if we think about today in 2026, there's more than just client dinners that build trust. There's a lot more things that, thanks to the internet and thanks to social media and platforms like LinkedIn, there's a lot more ways to build that deep sense of trust with your customer. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to establish rapport with a potential client. You're trying to show them a little bit more about who you are. You're maybe trying to convey that, hey, I'm just like you, or I understand you. And ultimately, you're trying to get them to like you and see you as qualified enough to be their advisor. And in that same way, yes, you could drop 10 grand on a client dinner at a Michelin star restaurant, but you can also do the same with content. If you have a highly curated, strong personal brand that your potential customers resonate with very deeply, the power of content is you can build one personal brand, say you're a managing director at Goldman Sachs, and rather than having to do one dinner with one potential client, your personal brand can reach 1,000, 2,000 potential clients. So you can see that there's huge potential to almost network at scale with content. And fundamentally, I believe that content is networking at scale, period. Full stop. When you're posting, you're basically broadcasting your personality and your image and your experiences and your beliefs out to the public. And hundreds of thousands of people that resonate with that content will see it because of the way that the algorithms work. And so, Daniel, the thing that I think a lot of really large Fortune 500 businesses are missing out on right now is this massive opportunity for a lot of their executives and senior folks to be building authentic personal brands that actually speak to their buyers and their future buyers, which are going to be people that are like us who really value someone if they have a personal brand. We really value it. When we want to buy from someone, the first thing we do is we Google them or we search them on Instagram and we try to find out what's their professional experience. Okay, we go to LinkedIn, we look at them before we buy anything from them. And so, in the same way, the businesses that I think are going to win in the next decade, in the next 20, 30 years are going to be the ones that allow their employees to create personal brands, not just allow, but encourage them and also equip them to do it effectively because not everybody, as you know, is able to do it well, even if they do post. But Daniel, I want to take a stop there because I've said a lot. Does that all track with what you were thinking?
Matt, you articulated that so well. I wanted to give one more example for the audience to help articulate this for those who aren't as familiar with investment banking. Let's say we're the CEO of a grocery store and we want some sort of AI chatbot solution. The clear three frontrunners in this space right now are Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. As of this recording, Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic. They pretty much all have the same product. For a grocery store like ours, it's all going to be the same thing. But Matt, if you work at Google and we're best friends, I'm probably going to pick Google because then I can spend more time with you and we're supporting friends because that's what friends do. We have an emotional connection. Or if I'm a super big fan of Sam Altman, I follow him on Twitter. I follow his blog. I've watched all the interviews he's done. Then I might go with ChatGPT, hoping that one day I might be able to get a client dinner with Sam Altman. You can see where this is going, and that's why the importance of a personal brand and having your employees post content, having your CEO post good content, having your employees like that CEO's content is important now more than ever because the more reach your CEO has and the more connections he has, not just with people at the company, but also outside and even in a parasocial relationship way, it helps the business succeed more.
Absolutely. And I do think, Daniel, candidly, I want to acknowledge that there are challenges with achieving this. Because if you imagine that you are the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, there's going to be a number of challenges along the path to building an authentic personal brand. And I use the word authentic because I think there's a lot of CEOs that do have some form of a personal brand, but it's very corporatized and it feels very impersonal. And you can tell that they didn't actually write half the posts on their account. It's literally just their face, but there's a marketing team that's writing, coming up with the ideas, everything. I'm not saying that that's a bad strategy. I just think that if you're gonna have someone else write your content and assist you with your posts, then you need to make sure that both you and your team are super aligned and clear on what your voice is, and you need to have a good content strategy in place. You can't just be posting whatever the heck you want just because you went to Davos and you talked to XYZ person and you want to shoot out a quick LinkedIn post. Like I think every once in a while that kind of thing is good, but if we're thinking broad strokes here, I think too many executives that do post aren't posting enough emotion building or personal branding focused content. It's a lot of everyone wants to be seen as a thought leader. So they just want to post a lot of thought leadership content, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But, and as you mentioned, Daniel, people buy from people that they have an emotional connection to. And a lot of times, the types of content that build the strongest emotional connection aren't necessarily going to be the ones where it's just like, these are the 10 things that I learned because I went to Davos and talked to like 10 different leaders. Like that's a valuable piece of content. It's got its place in the rotation, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you post. The challenge there is also a lot of executives, I think, just don't want to be as vulnerable or personal online. But I think that's going to change because the people that are leading Fortune 500 today didn't grow up with social media. The people that will be leading it tomorrow have. And they're going to be people like you and I, Daniel, who understand how important it is to show some emotions, show some vulnerability online, and understand that it's actually going to benefit their business exponentially if they do that.
I really want to emphasize this point you just made, Matt. And to anyone who's an executive listening right now that posts on LinkedIn or will be an executive in the future and will post on LinkedIn, I really want you to pay attention right now. When you're going to these client dinners as an investment banker and you're taking the client out, you want to be fun. You don't want to sound like a robot who is practically AI generated and says boring stuff. You want to be fun. That's why you take them to the nice places. You want to have a good time together because that's how they're going to choose your firm over the others. Like, yeah, I had fun with Matt. We had a good time at dinner. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, Matt was boring at dinner. All he wanted to do was talk about economy and everything else going on in the news. No, that's not the point of these client dinners. And that's not the point of content either. If you sound like you're ChatGPT and you're giving these generic takeaways, no one's going to want to follow that. No one's going to want to do business with you, just like no one wants to do business with someone who has a boring dinner experience. So you have to treat your LinkedIn content like you're talking to a friend at a client dinner. And I think for whatever reason, I don't know why, there's this stigma of being formal on social media. And that's what you have to do because that's what everyone should do. But that's really not the case. You do want to be authentic, and that's how you're going to get more people to connect with you so you can start getting those returns of social media.
Daniel, that's an excellent point. And just adding on that, I think that one of the big reasons why there's this hesitancy to post more authentic or more unfiltered content is we've been trained to be cautious about how we present ourselves online. I remember even as early as middle or high school, hearing teachers tell us, be careful about your digital footprint because you never know who's watching. And while I think there's validity to that statement, and obviously you don't want to come out and be posting crazy takes or things that could get you in big trouble, I think there's this tendency to become victim to the spotlight effect where everyone thinks that everyone is watching their every move. And if I say one thing that makes me sound remotely not how I want to be perceived, then it's going to destroy my professional reputation. But the reality is, I think 99% of the time, if you're an executive who has navigated a Fortune 500 environment, you're probably fairly well educated. You've probably got a good head on your shoulders, and you probably have good judgment, which is why you've gotten promoted to that level. So when it comes to your content, you're probably not going to end up posting something that's going to make you lose your job or destroy your professional credibility. So that's number one. I want to lay that out. If you're an executive or even if you're a professional working at an investment bank or one of these professional services firms, chances are you're not going to be posting content that is going to get you in massive amounts of trouble. Now, caveat, okay, if you're watching this and you get in trouble because of the advice that you took from me, like use your judgment, okay? I'm not telling you to go out and post whatever the heck you want. Just use the Wall Street Journal test. If this post showed up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and your mom, your dad, your sister, your girlfriend, your employer, everyone saw it, would that still be okay with you? If so, post it. If not, okay, maybe sit on it, sleep on it, think about it for a little bit before you do post. But I just want to debunk that idea that the digital footprint is something that executives need to be scared of almost because that to me is the biggest objection that I've heard of people just not wanting to destroy their professional credibility by posting. Kind of went on a rant there, Daniel.
When I talk to professionals, Matt, they say the same thing. And if you think about the scale, okay, this is like posting profanities on LinkedIn, this is posting AI slop. We're really just trying to help you find something like just not like all the way like super controversial stuff, just stuff that makes you sound human. And most people have good judgment when it comes to this stuff.
This is getting kind of theoretical, and maybe we'll cut this part out. But something that I've been thinking about recently is how the companies that are really going to win in the next decade are going to be the ones that allow and actually encourage their employees to post. But not only that, the employees themselves actually have to want to post and be interested in creating content for their personal brand. In order for people to see the value in creating content and creating their personal brands, there has to be either really strong messaging and from the top down, like the C-suite and the leaders need to lead by example and show people that, hey, it's like a lot of benefits can come to the business from posting, but for the employees themselves, a lot of benefit to yourself by posting on your account and building your personal brand. So you're not necessarily posting just for the company. This is something that I talked to with our one of our previous guests, Anthony Pieri, who runs a marketing consulting firm. I was asking him about how a company can actually incentivize their employees to post because that's one of the big challenges right now is employees don't want to post. A lot of people don't want to have their face out there on social media, even if their employer wants them to. So how do you incentivize them to do that? Well, one way is you could pay them. Sure, you give them a bonus. Like if you post 10 times this month, like you're getting extra $500 bonus, or the person that got the most impressions this month wins some prize. That's one way to do it. But another way to do it, which I think is probably more powerful but harder to execute on, is if you can get them to see the value in their personal and professional career. It's like, yes, if you build 10,000 followers while you're here working at Forge Media, for example, like if you are posting and growing your account to 10,000 followers, even after you leave, if you go to a new opportunity, you've got those 10,000 followers who still are interested in you as a person because you've been building that personal brand. And that is something that they can't take away from you no matter where you work. And it's going to only benefit and compound in your career. So one way is yes, you can throw money at them and get them to post. But in my view, the most powerful way to get people to actually post at your company is to show them that there's a lot beyond just the monetary aspect of it that they can benefit from in their careers.
I couldn't agree more, Matt.
That's a great way to end it. We'll see you in the next one.